Well, hey there, everyone. So this week I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, a little bit crafty. I have yet to make a book nook. So that's what I'm gonna do. I have a ton of craft wood and even more audacity to think that I can do this. So pretty much the style that I kind of want to go for is like those book nooks that you can buy at like Michael's or Walmart, whatever, that you just kind of put together. So I kind of want to make it look like that vibe and like cut out pieces with the craft wood to make it kind of look like that. And I want to do, I think, a bookstore. So let me throw up my inspiration somewhere. So this is the one that I want to like kind of base it off of, and then I can show you a bit of inspiration of like the vibe that I want as well. So kind of thinking like dark, dreary, some deep greens, a nice little cluttered, cute little bookstore, a big window for books to be in, a huge bookshelf in the back for books to be stacked on, and a cute little like front entrance of the bookstore. So unfortunately I do not have glue that works for this today, so tonight I have to go to the store, but at least today I can like cut out all of my pieces and like do the math and stuff, and I can also like build some of the books that need to go onto the bookshelf, and maybe if I have time start on like little knickknacks to go around the little bookshop. So that's kind of the plan for this week. Let's see if I can manage it. And then of course I do want to put lights inside of it. I do have like little baby string lights. But I don't know if they'll be like bright enough, but I get that's all I have, so that's what we're gonna use. And that's about as high tech as we're gonna get. So let's go ahead, draw out kind of the idea that I'm thinking for this little bookshop, and then see if I am able to cut out all of these pieces and then start doing some decor. So the first thing that I did is that I kind of drew out what I wanted my whole building to look like. So I cut out the front with my measurements and everything. And here I also measured the little door and the big window in the front. And then I could cut out the sides and the back accordingly. Now these would be my templates for cutting out the wood pieces. And then I am going to have a little indented doorway for the front of this bookstore. And you can see here that I did go around the house looking for every single circular object to get the right arch for the top of this little indented door area. And then I finally found my mug, which worked perfectly. Okay, so I've got the base of my bookstore all like cut out on the templates, and then I also have one bookshelf cut out on a template. So I'm gonna start with cutting these out. I did a little test one. This is the side piece. I need to cut out another one of those. So that cut out fairly well. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and cut out the rest of these and then see what more I need to add after that. So pretty much what I did with these templates is I laid them onto the wood and then drew out the shapes and everything, and then I could take my X-Acto blade and cut out everything. Once everything was cut out, I did make sure to sand down all the edges and the surfaces just to give me a much smoother finish. Now it is day 2 and I did get ink from my printer. So the first thing I did is I printed out some things to be cut out. So I decided that I wanted to do a little butterfly display. So I found this printout with a bunch of little butterflies and I just cut out the little ones that I wanted, and then those would be used later for the display. And then I also printed out some portraits and pictures that I'm also going to cut out. And then now it was time for the books for the bookshelf. So I did print out this sheet of just like generic, kind of old-timey looking book covers. So I'm going to cut out all of those individually. So let's go ahead and start to build the bookshelf. So I am taking this quick dry tacky glue, which is the holy grail of the glue for this project. And I'm just going to glue the sides of the bookshelf together and the top and bottom. After that, I cut out some shelves and then glued those on, and then I could glue the front of the shelf onto the bookshelf. And then I made a stain for the bookshelf, which is pretty much just brown acrylic paint and some water. So that's going to be my quote-unquote stain for this. And I'm going to coat the entire bookshelf with it. Now each of the books can be folded into a book shape. Now the inside of these books is going to be white EVA foam, and so I found the quickest way to make all these books was to cut out a long strip of the EVA foam and then use the tacky glue to glue it and sandwich it onto the strip, and then from there I could cut out all of the books individually. And then to place the books, I did put some tacky glue on the bottom of each book because I wanted to make sure that they didn't move around at all. And then I carefully put them on the bookshelf where I wanted them. Now for the butterfly display, I did cut out a little square of the craft wood because I wanted the backing of this display to be a white piece of board. So I went ahead and I painted that white. And then for the frame of this board, I cut out little strips of the craft wood, and then I used that same acrylic with water stain to make the border of this. Then I cut it to the length that I needed for the surrounding of the white board, and then I glued them on. Now to make the butterflies look a little bit more realistic, I kind of folded them in half just a little bit so they were kind of angled up on each side, and then to glue them onto the board I just dabbed a little bit of the tacky glue onto the center of the fold on the back, and then I carefully placed it where I wanted it. Okay, these are the two pieces that I have accomplished today. So the butterfly like display, and then this little bookshelf. I still need to add little things in the spaces of the bookshelf and then probably some stuff on top. But yeah, so that took all day. But they look really freaking good. So yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna do some more little baby things, so probably whatever I need to fill up these spaces, some picture frames, and probably some other little things, and then I can finally start to build my actual like book nook and put things in. Alrighty, it is day 3 and we're moving along swiftly. So I think I got the biggest part done, which was the bookshelf. So all I have to do for that is I need to put the little like extra things in the little spaces in between the books. And then that is done. So I need to go ahead and print out those. I just found like a couple like collages of just like random things. And so I'm just gonna cut out a few of them and then stick them on the back of foam and then just like cut them out and stick them in there. So that's the easiest way to do it without actually having to like build a tiny little like radio or typewriter, because it's gonna be really small and it's probably not going to be like very seen because it's going to be like through the doors and the window of this place. And then my favorite thing, I think this is my favorite so far, is the little butterfly display. Like, it looks so real. This is so cute. So I've decided that I'm going to diverge from the original inspo a bit, color wise at least, because I feel like, I don't know, I just didn't want the green on the inside because it felt a little too dark and stuffy. So I did print out this wallpaper here, and my printer is being a little problematic right now. So I'm gonna just do this for like the back wall, and then I'll have the two side walls just be painted like a similar tan or maybe like a contrasting color. And then again, I'll paint the outside, probably not that deep green though, probably like a cute little pastel-y green. So yeah, I need to just finish up those elements for the bookshelf, and then I think I'm gonna start painting like the walls and getting all of the little pieces put together before I start gluing the entire thing together. So let's go ahead and do that. So again, I had found just this like collage of random things, and I found a few items that would work for the little spaces in this bookshelf, and I cut them out. And then I just put some tacky glue on the back of it and then glued it onto a piece of foam and then cut them out. Now while the little bookshelf accessories were drying, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to glue the little pictures on to little squares of craft wood just to make it a bit more sturdier and look more like a picture. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Mod Podge to do that so that this sticks better. Now that the little bookshelf accessories were dry, I'm just going to take my X-Acto blade and then cut them out. And then you can see that the back and the edges of these little pieces are white because of the foam that I used. And I just wanted to color the edges black with a Sharpie just to make it look a bit more seamless when it's inside of the bookshelf. And then I placed tacky glue on the bottom of them and positioned them onto the shelf. Now for the wallpaper, I am going to take Mod Podge again and then just coat the entire back of this craft wood and then glue on the wallpaper. Now, since I had mentioned that this doorway is going to be indented in the front of the store, I'm going to go ahead and measure and cut out my little pieces for that, for the door to be indented. Now on the right side of the indent, I am going to make it more like a window as well, because when you're looking at an angle, I want to be able to see through as much as I can. And then while I was at it, I also cut out a bunch of strips, and that's going to be detailing for the outside of my store. So with these strips, I cut out a little square to put on the front beneath the window, and I also cut out a bunch of strips to put along the top and along the top of the little doorway, and another square along the side of the indent. This is just going to make it look a bit more in depth and a little bit more realistic. Okay, you're gonna have to hear me out on this one because my printer was out of ink, and so I wanted to do a plant for my bookshelf. And the only thing that my printer was printing was blue. So I found this template of leaves and I printed them out, and I was like, well, crap, I'm gonna have to wait for more ink to come in. But I had the idea to grab a highlighter and just color them green. And that seemed to work, so we're gonna roll with it. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going to color the leaves that I want green, and then I'm going to cut them out. So the way that this template works is there is a front and the back to these leaves. So I'm going to take each section of these leaves and then fold them in half. And then I'm going to put some tacky glue in the middle to glue both of the sides together. Then each leaf can be cut out individually. And then I'm also going to put a little indent on the top of the leaf just to make it look a bit more in depth and realistic. Now for the stems of the leaf, I did take some floral wire of different lengths and just kind of twisted them together to look kind of like this. And then the same way that I did the butterfly, I'm going to take the little leaves and then dab a little bit of glue on that fold on the back and then just stick it onto the wire. After that, I made a little pot out of a cereal box cardboard and some washi tape, and then I hot glued the leaf into the pot. And then lastly, I tacky glued the plant onto the top of the bookshelf. Okay, it is the last day, and I have to finish this whole thing and film the reveal, so I am a little bit stressy, but I believe we're almost there. So yesterday, I finished the bookshelf. I got this little plant on. I got my little accessories in, and that's the main part of this. And now I also put a little like wood strips and details for the outside of the front of the store. And I think I also put the backing of craft wood onto these pictures. So I mentioned that I was going to paint the walls, but I was able to get some more ink in, so I printed out some more wallpaper for the walls. So those are also going to be the wallpaper. So I need to put the wallpaper on the side walls, and then I need to start gluing like all the picture frames and stuff in place, and then I can go ahead and start to build this whole thing. And then I also, once I do that, I need to paint the outside. I'm thinking like a light pastel yellow. So yeah, we need to get all of that done today, get the lights like glued into the inside as well, and then film the reveal. So let's get chugging along and hope I can do it within a reasonable amount of time. Since I was able to get the other two wallpapers printed, I'm going to go ahead and stick those onto the inside side walls of the little book nook. And now it's time to build that little indent for the front of the store. So I am just going to glue the sides on, and then I'll glue on the roof of the little indent, and then I can finally glue on that doorway. And now it is finally time to paint. So I decided to paint before I put everything together, and this made it a lot easier. So I mixed together this pastel-ish yellow. It looks lighter in person, I promise. And then I'm just going to paint all of the pieces, and the front piece does get painted on the inside as well, just because when you're looking through the windows you can see the inside. And on the outside of the sidewalls, I am only going to paint up to a portion because I am planning on putting a little printed brick pieces of paper on the bottoms. And then with the little wood detailing that I put on the outside of the store, I'm going to go ahead and paint those white, and then the top strip is going to be painted a little bit of a deeper yellow. And I also added a little bit of flowers on the two little squares that are on the front and on the inside of the indent of the doorway. And then, like I said, I am putting a little brick layer on the bottom of the sidewalls, so I'm just going to Mod Podge and then stick those on. And then to cover up that middle seam, I did cut out a small strip of the craft wood and I painted it white, and I'm going to glue that on to the middle there. And now the floor can be put onto the craft wood, so again, Mod Podge, and then stick on the printed piece of paper. And then now the floor can be glued to the bottom of our book nook. And then I am going to glue the bookshelf down because I want everything to be glued down and sturdy. Now for the lighting, I was playing with kind of having the lights be on the front and the inside of the wall, but instead I decided to glue it to the ceiling of the book nook. So I just kind of like wove the wire back and forth and I hot glued it down into place, and then I cut out a little notch on the back, and that's where the battery is going to be able to go up through the roof and then glued onto the back of the book nook. I also made a little welcome sign, and I glued on two of the pictures onto the front of the inside of the book nook with some toothpicks on the back. And I also made this little swingy book sign that is going to be glued onto the front of the store. Now the roof can be glued onto the top of the book nook, and I'm making sure that the battery is in the proper position to where the battery can go towards the back of the book nook. And then the front of the store can finally be glued on. And the last thing that we have to do is glue on this book sign, and we are ready for the final look. And here is my pride and joy. I think I can confidently say this is one of my favorite things that I've ever made. She's gorgeous. I want to live wherever this is, and I want to run this bookstore. But yeah, I think this turned out so much better than I thought it was going to. I like the vibe change that I made from like the dark greens to like the cute pastels. But yeah, this also took so much longer than I thought it was going to. It literally took me all 4 days of the week to do this, and I'm literally filming this like outro on my editing day. So this was like the most behind I've been in a while without having to delay my video. But it was worth it because look at it. And I love like the little sign here. I love the butterflies on the inside. I love my bookstore or my little bookshelf. It's just so cute. So yeah, I think this like came together very well. I wish I could have put more on the inside because you can see it's a little bit bare, but I literally had no time to do that. So I think if I have just some like free time later, I'll just like make little things. Like I could definitely put some more art on the walls. I wish I would have done more of that. And maybe like a little chair in the corner or something like that to give it some more stuff to fill it up, and then maybe some stuff in the bottom of this window. But this is all I had and all I could do within the allotted time. So given that, I think it still turned out really good. I think the lights worked really great on the inside too, because when you're like looking at it, you can't really see the mess that's on the roof. But even if you do, it just kind of looks like twinkle lights, and that's perfect. And it just lights everything so well. Even with it off, I think it's pretty cute. It's just, you know, get some sunshine coming on in there. And I don't have to waste my batteries. So yeah, thank you for coming along with me to make this gorgeous, gorgeous little bookstore book nook. I actually don't know where I'm gonna put this actually, because my bookshelf is absolutely full. So I'm gonna have to find a place somewhere where this will not be a functional book nook, but it is still really cute, so I need to put it somewhere. So anywho to do, if you like what I did, go and like and subscribe. I post most Saturdays, mostly at noon, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you for watching.